DayZ, a game that has consumed many of my waking hours and shattered my nerves like no other game has.
You piece of shit, you went inside the fucking floor!
A game that took milsim and turned it into one of the most accurate versions of society and showed that the majority of people are dickheads.
Do you want the shotgun? I'm telling you, I don't have ammo for it.
What a guy.
Despite the game being hated, widely hated I might say, by its fanbase, for ridiculous zombie AI, hackers, and people that will steal your kidney in a gas mask,
we took one of your kidneys. That's okay, you only need one.
people still come back to it for the unique experience it provides. And that unique experience, in my view, teaches far more about life than any Manosphere Red Pill course that you can buy online from any of the alpha male grifters.
Ali, you're a nice guy. But you're not speaking to somebody that will just let you speak this way, you know?
In this video, I'll be going through my personal DayZ experience catalog, and I will lay out some ideas and examples of the rough and unforgiving world of DayZ, and perhaps you'll find some of those lessons apply outside of it as well. DayZ is unfair, and the main way that unfairness is expressed in DayZ is harsh consequences. It is the case for many hardcore games to punish the player severely for the simplest mistakes. Often that happens in the form of losing valuable loot, which could be the best case, and in the worst case is permadeath. And it's the case with DayZ again that it will give you life lessons for days. The love-hate relationship I have with this game is, you cannot describe it. As a survival sandbox game, the goal is simply to survive for the longest time and gather the most resources possible. There's no real end game. You might be able to find the best loot, weapons, NVGs, clothing, plate carriers, you name it, and your run can end just like that without being able to fire one shot, getting sniped with a blaze from 500 meters away. How does it feel? You tell me when you finish collecting all the keys from the floor and putting them back on your keyboard. And a run in DayZ might last anywhere from 3 minutes, ended by a spawn-killing person that is probably abused at home, to days or weeks, ending in a glorious firefight at TC. Right in the beginning, you spawn without even having control of where you spawn. Maybe you wanted a certain run. Tough luck, you need to adapt and do something else. If you spawned where players before you had already looted, even tougher luck. You can stay in the area and contend for scraps or whatever's left. Or you can go somewhere else. Think outside the box. DayZ's ridiculous bubble spawn system makes it that players spawn at the same area for a period of time before switching to a different area. Like I said, you could get lucky and spawn first, but that's not usually what happens. Usually you fight for an IJ and a can of Pepsi. And my whole point is, this is entirely out of your hands, but somehow you have to make the best with it. Another thing is the weather, for example. You spawned, it's raining, you get a cold, pneumonia, congrats, you're dead. Every zombie hit makes you bleed because the DayZ gods of RNG decided so, you're out of bandages, congrats, you're dead. Oh no wait, you found a rag and bandage, okay cool. Now the rags weren't disinfected, congrats, you got an infection. And now you're dead. And this list is just the factors from the game itself, right? I didn't even mention the mental state your fellow players are in when they spawn in your area. Fresh spawn campers exist, and now you're dead. Well, enough. You already know how it goes. When life gives you lemons, something to make you feel better. The absence of control is probably the most frustrating thing in DayZ, and this is why I think it surprisingly plays very well with our primal brain. Our control freak brains interpret it as unfairness, and why the fuck am I spawning in Sviatlo for the 5th time in a row? But what can we do to quote-unquote cope with this? In short, not much really. The only thing you can do is use your experience as a DayZ player, make whatever amount of hours you have in the game work for you. Exercising practical wisdom mentioned, of that experience gives you the best survival odds possible. Let's visit another example, which at times all of us are guilty of doing. You're around TC, probably well late into the game. You haven't encountered a player for a while, you haven't heard any shots, you're comfortable, looting. Your guard is slowly dropping and... you already know. But how? When? Where? Doesn't matter really, does it? You're dead. You think it's unfair, right? But were you really cautious when clearing the buildings, or did you just slip up? Did you pre-aim when clearing the buildings? Were you avoiding open areas? Maybe you actually did all of it and the death screen is still there, but you did what you could to maximize the odds of your survival. And that's an uncomfortable lesson DayZ teaches early on. Good decisions don't guarantee good outcomes. Sometimes you do everything right and you still die.
Mission 실패.
The game doesn't owe you success just because you played well. The only thing you truly have in the game that is your own is the quality of your judgment. Everything else, the loot, the weather, the players you meet, even whether you survive, is ultimately outside of your control. You control your effort, you never control the outcome. Another thing that you often learn in Chernarus is to anticipate misfortune. Players should deliberately imagine what could go wrong, not to become pessimistic, but so they wouldn't be surprised when adversity inevitably arrived. It's not a negative mindset, it's just preparation. If you played enough DayZ, you're probably practicing this without even realizing it. Imagine you're in a 2v2 fight, you and your friend win. Adrenaline is pumping, you've earned your loot, and you start running towards the bodies. And then both of you get sprayed from the tree line.
What? Oh, hell no!
There's always one more. It's become a meme at this point, but every experienced player treats it like gospel. Before you even touch a dead body, you assume there could be another player watching. Before you walk into the military base, you assume somebody beat you there. Before you cross an open field, you assume somebody has eyes on you. To a new player, the mindset sounds paranoid, but it's really just preparation. You're not expecting disaster because you enjoy being negative, you're expecting it because you learned that reality doesn't care whether you're ready or not. This sort of preparation in DayZ is usually, on average, rewarded by a prolonged run. Not blind optimism, not constant pessimism, but asking yourself one simple question. If things go wrong, what could I do? As you rack up hours in DayZ, you naturally become more restrained. Not because you've become more afraid, but because you've accumulated enough experience to recognize that not every opportunity is worth taking. You develop a sort of trigger discipline, not just with your weapon, but with your decisions in general. Early on, every gunshot is an invitation. Every geared player is a target. Every interaction has to end up either in friendship or violence.
I don't want peace. I want problems, always!
But after enough time in Chernarus, you begin asking a different question. Is this actually worth it? Avoiding something because it's high risk, low reward is not cowardice, it's just the logical thing to do. That sort of temperance is the ability of the player to exercise self-restraint and not be ruled by impulse. DayZ isn't just about making the right decisions, it's about avoiding the wrong ones. But when you start avoiding too much, temperance turns into something else. It turns into fear, and I think I managed to identify why. In my opinion, it all boils down to attachment. Attachment to what though? To the character? That seems a little too deep for the average kill-on-site DayZ player. Nah, there's only one thing that matters. That sweet loot. In my first 100 hours of DayZ, I found myself hoarding like crazy, to the point of mental illness. Like I would carry 2 pistols, a shotgun, AR, a sniper rifle, all of that while wearing a plate carrier. The infinitesimal amount of stamina I had can testify. Imagine how I felt after losing all that. This was like days worth of loot. And then you feel like shit because of some pixels on your screen you no longer possess. To prevent that feeling, people start building bases, joining clans, keeping watch of the bases, raiding others, and it just becomes a cycle of never-ending clan wars. But doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of the game? Maybe for some leprechauns out there, it's fun sitting on their pot of gold. But in my view, you kind of cross the threshold where instead of loot serving your purposes, it just becomes looting for the sake of looting, for having the item. Players will have 3 cars, a shit ton of guns, and plate carriers lying around in crates, locked away in their bases, never even using them. What's the purpose? I think it starts from the very beginning of the run. In the beginning of the run, you don't have the same attachment to the loot you have, because it's shit. A fresh pawn has nothing to lose. As they accumulate gear, they become increasingly attached to it. Then the death of the character strips everything away. Most players will see that as a failure. But what exactly did you lose? Your rifle? Your backpack? Your food? Or did you retain what actually matters? Your knowledge of the map, your survival skills, your judgment, your ability to adapt. Think about it, the experienced player doesn't really start from zero after death. And here we can clearly see the distinction between external factors, that being the gear you possess that can be stripped off at any moment, and the internal invaluable experience and infinite wisdom you have as a DayZ player. In that sense, permadeath in DayZ isn't just a punishment, it can be viewed as a recurring mental exercise.
You didn't have to cut me off. Said that I could never, that we were nothing. I don't even need your love, but you treat me like a stranger, and I feel so up.
The game repeatedly asks whether your confidence comes from what you're carrying or what you are as a player. Now that I have around 3,000 hours in DayZ, my playstyle has changed quite a bit. I prefer traveling with a light loadout, not because I want to lose less, but because it's more practical. You have more stamina when it matters, your inventory isn't clogged with items you'll probably never use. 1 rifle, 1 suppressed pistol for zombies, a knife, and that's all I really need. Any food I find, I eat on the spot instead of carrying around, and everything else I use situationally as I move through the map. Traveling light almost flips the mentality. Instead Instead of asking what if I need this later, I ask do I actually need this now? Most of the time the answer is no. The game already provides what I need if I'm willing to keep moving. When I stopped playing for the gear and started playing for the interactions, the game just became infinitely better for me.
Bro,
I'm wearing a red armband.
there's another guy here.
Mogilevka Electro. Yeah.
What the fuck is going on, bro?
Electro is pretty fun.
I killed the guy.
I heard the shots. What exactly happened? Oh, more
Are you
shots.
coming to me?
With me.
Fuck, I'm bleeding.
Bro, run. He's chasing you. What is happening?
I shot him!
And personally, I think that's where DayZ shines best. Interacting with random players in DayZ is literally peak, but non-violent interaction and survival seem to be an oxymoron in DayZ lately. Imagine this, two relatively geared people meet in a non-military area in DayZ. I specifically said non-military because when you're at TC, for example, or Northwest, there are no rules of engagement. It's shoot on sight. Sorry, but that's just the way it goes. No good Samaritans roam around military bases. So let's say you meet at Googlevo, for example. While you're on your way to refill your bottle at the well before going deeper into the map, you both notice each other. What happens next reminds me of the prisoner's dilemma. In its simplest form, this game theory dilemma describes two criminals arrested and interrogated separately, with no way of communicating. If one betrays the other, while the second stays silent, the betrayer walks free and the other receives a heavy sentence. If they both betray each other, they both get a moderate sentence. If they both stay silent, they get a light sentence. You can already see the incentive here. Betray first. While DayZ isn't a perfect one-to-one translation, the underlying idea is surprisingly similar. You don't know the other player's intentions and they don't know yours. If they shoot first while you hesitate, you're dead. If you shoot first, you eliminate the threat. The one-time interaction prisoner's dilemma predicts exactly this. Assuming both players are acting purely in their own self-interest, betrayal, in DayZ's case, shooting first, is a rational strategy. So yes, logic says shoot.
Problems always.
And if you're mechanically better than the other player, you'll probably quote-unquote win the interaction. But there's something about that which has never felt DayZ-like to me. Obviously, if the player shows even the slightest sign of aggression, for example raising their weapon for a millisecond, then by all means, unload the drum mag in their direction. Fully justified. And even then, if there's room for dialogue, why resort to violence so quickly? Sure, you're increasing your chance of the worst possible outcome, but what if it's actually worth the risk? I usually play solo with one or two friends on Discord maybe, and I rarely team up with random people. But when I do, those runs are almost always the ones I remember the most.
Oh, you killed my friend!
Yeah!
You are bitches!
Now someone might say this contradicts my previous observations, but up until now, I've been mostly talking about maximizing your chances of survival. This is different. Here we're talking about optimizing your experience, maximizing the chance of having an experience you'll actually remember. It usually gets pretty boring if you KOS all the time. Coming back to the point I made earlier about Gear Fever, and Gear Fever defeating the point of the game, this is the second way the game becomes more of an algorithm for survival and less of a dynamic social experiment. If you optimize for survival every time, you miss out on a lot more. If I wanted the pure milsim experience, I'd play Armory Forger. But here we are, 3,000 hours deep in a broken beyond repair, fuck-ass game from the 2010s.
Wait.
To summarize, while this video is about DayZ, it's not really about DayZ, is it? These are just observations from a game that seems to be its own microcosm, that in some ways teaches us a thing or two about life. Obviously, it's not one-to-one, and I don't really expect it to be. It reminds me more of when I got my first job, for example. Has a similar kind of vibe to it that I can't explain. This game can mirror these life situations pretty well, and while a crazy statement, to me it's still a form of education. You do get somehow wiser through all the interactions, good or bad. They leave you with something, and as outrageous as it may sound, maybe they even stay with you throughout your daily life. But maybe I'm completely overthinking a broken zombie game. Anyway, that's all I had. If nothing else, hopefully this made you think about DayZ in a slightly different way. Or maybe it just reminded you of that one time you got one-tapped at TC. Let me know in the comments what you think, like, subscribe, and all of that beautiful stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.